Virginia's State House again thrust into the spotlight as Virginia's lieutenant governor says he will not resign.
Fairfax is now accused by a second woman, a classmate at Duke University.
Any message for the citizens of Virginia?
We'll have our say.
Democrats were assigned being the protectors of women, that the owners of this issue. It becomes weaponized and partisan.
Democrats in their first at bat as a majority on this committee wasted no time trying to nail down whether Whitaker was working actively against the Mueller probe.
You wouldn't oversee a witch hunt, would you? You'd stop a witch hunt.
Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up.
Democrats' control of the House may have a major impact on whether or not the government shuts down again in 7 days.
I think it has a lot of work to go forward.
We're pretty close.
Lunatics in the Congress have a brand new plan to destroy our economy. It's called the Green New Deal.
Our planet is in peril, and we need to be bold. One of the reasons why I signed on to the resolution and co-sponsored the resolution for the Green New Deal. It's too expensive. Oh, it's all of this. If we used to govern our dreams that way, we would have never gone to the moon.
Green New Deal, that's going to radically reshape our economy and all the rest, because we have to dream big, just like the moon. Will his staff brief him on the fact that there was a lot of fossil fuel used by NASA to get the rockets up to the moon? Good point. Does he realize fossil fuel was used? I'm just wondering.
It wasn't battery power.
That's true.
They might have had windmills on the way up.
Oh, man. It was unicorns that just flew them up. I mean, it's that thing. Don't even get me started on that thing, because I
we will. We are getting you started.
But how great of a week was it for conservatives? If you step back for a second, you got the State of the Union, which was very effective. You got
that was this week already.
This week, the lunacy of the Green Deal, which we're picking apart, and then the Democrats are imploding in Virginia.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get
because
to
of
that,
a lot
actually.
of double standards and hypocrisy. So and it's National Pizza Day. We'll talk about that later. I have a lot to say about that. It is,
oh boy,
it's basically Christmas.
I think we're going to debate it out.
When there's pizza here, you know there's a lot of winning. So
Christmas for my taste buds.
And Jed is here.
And
so
you
that's
brought
even
the
more
Italian
awesome.
back for Pizza Day. Which how could you do Pizza Day with
that? Was not directly connected. I don't want to get in trouble. We brought the Italian in. We're not supposed to play that kind of music. You're not upset.
I am Italian.
Okay, you're going to embrace it.
We can't play that music.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that nobody was going to criticize us.
No cultural appropriation or anything like that. It's Italian. It's pizza. America did not invent pizza. It invented everything else, not pizza.
About everything else. All right. Pete mentioned it. Big story that is still bringing in Virginia something very rotten in Richmond. Now you have the lieutenant governor, after all of the trouble for the governor, the lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, now has a second accuser alleging that he raped her back at Duke University.
So you got this whole mess in Virginia right now. The top three Democrats embroiled in scandal. The top Democrat and the Attorney General, so the number one and the number three, accused of and admitting to wearing blackface. Right. And they've been called to resign by many, but they're not moving anywhere.
Many in their own party.
Many in their own party. Now you've got the number two, Justin Fairfax. He's the lieutenant governor. One accusation of sexual assault from a professor. Now a second one has come out yesterday claiming that while they were undergrads at Duke, that she was raped by him. A very serious accusation. And she's come out with...
It has not been verified yet,
Not been verified. Listen, we're going to be very careful about this.
Not verified, but you do have people saying that she did tell them at the time, that she did run across the hall crying, and that she did put it in writing as well. Yeah. So there is some people are saying now, even folks on the left coming out and saying they do deem this
unlike the
credible
Brett Kavanaugh treatment, we're not going to do that because facts do matter. So you're careful about the
facts matter, and we want to be clear that the Democratic Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, has put out this statement, quote, "I deny this latest unsubstantiated allegation. It is demonstrably false," he says. "I have never forced myself on anyone ever. I demand a full investigation into these unsubstantiated and false allegations." But again, that is not stopping some in his own party who are saying get out.
Right. Some of us have been consistent on this issue, saying, you know what, these people deserve due process. Many of us talking about Kavanaugh at the time saying, let's investigate it, let's give him due process, let's not jump to a conclusion. Many folks on the left, everyone will remember, did jump to conclusions when it came to Kavanaugh. Leaped. When, in fact, Christine Blasey Ford did not have corroboration. A lot of the people that she brought forth at the time, if you will remember, contradicted her story or supported Kavanaugh's character at the time. So this is a little bit different, but I support the consistency of people on both sides of the aisle who have said, you know what, let's investigate it, let's give it due process. Now,
pretty much the only consistency has come from conservatives and Republicans who say Kavanaugh was so unfairly treated.
True.
We're going to give deference enough to Democrats. But if he says it's demonstrably false, that means he can demonstrate that it is false. We'll see where that evidence comes from going forward.
Some Democrats Democrats, though, Pete, not tolerating this so much.
Absolutely.
Patrick Hope, a Democratic delegate from Northern Virginia, saying he will file articles of impeachment if Fairfax doesn't resign. Take a listen.
As the father of 3 young girls, cannot stand by silently while the lieutenant governor is facing multiple credible allegations of sexual assault. I believe these women. He needs to resign immediately. Should the lieutenant governor fail to do so, on Monday, I intend to introduce articles of impeachment.
So interesting, because on one hand, there you have a Democrat perhaps being consistent going back to Kavanaugh in terms of their position, in saying, look, there's credible allegations in his mind, so you've got to go. But to your point, Jed, what about due process? Justin Fairfax, the Democrat, has got no due process. He's just got 2 allegations out there. He has denied them. There hasn't been any sort of investigation. And yet it's not just that Democratic delegate teeing off on Justin Fairfax, a fellow Democrat. You have a litany of 2020 Democratic hopefuls who do not appear to have learned anything from the Kavanaugh situation, because they're immediately saying, get out.
They have no other choice. They've set such a standard. That's their only choice. So you saw the list of them: Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, Castro, Bernie Sanders. All these folks all lining up saying he's got to go. But I'll say this about the number one, Northam, the governor. They've all called for him to go, but if you read behind-the-scenes reports, the Washington Post, they're quietly telling him to stay. The hypocrisy is beyond rampant.
But why is that, Pete?
Because they don't want to give up the governorship. They know there's a Republican waiting in the wings if all 3 of them go. They don't want to leave that governorship.
The governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general who admitted to blackface, we haven't talked much about him. If all 3 go, as Pete said, the next in line is the Republican speaker of their state house, basically. So all of a sudden, you see the current Democratic governor. If all 3 Democrats fall, a Republican becomes governor in Virginia,
Can't have that,
a swing state. And so now they're saying, well, maybe Northam should stick around.
When it comes to Fairfax, though, I still have a problem with this immediate, I believe these women. I still have a problem with that. And unfortunately, Democrats set that precedent with due process.
Exactly.
We had Tammy Bruce, actually, Fox News contributor, saying Democrats have made due process go out the window. And I think she's right. Take a listen.
The principles for Democrats, that's kind of an oxymoron right there, because this is what's happened. Men now, they get no due process under any circumstance, right? Due process is blown up. Women are now clearly been made into irrelevant, weaponized, additional victims of opportunity when it comes to a political option. If you're the right kind of woman making the right kind of accusation against the right kind of person, i.e. a conservative or a Republican, you're going to be taken seriously. And in this case now, it seems to be so serious that they've got to apply, and they're trying to apply that same standard of no due process.
The left would be marching in the streets if these were Republicans. Instead, they're sending a couple tweets. It's streets versus tweets.
Right.
I'll tweet to resign and then be quiet.
Streets versus tweets.
That's it. I made that up.
It's not just Democrats. There's other media organizations who would be hounding them if they're Republicans 24/7. Why haven't you left yet? The satellite trucks would be camped out outside.
Yeah, and there's also a distinction. Yes, Fairfax is being held accountable by some Democrats, but remember with Kavanaugh, there was a public hearing. They made this, the media, Hollywood, Alyssa Milano sitting out there, they made this public because they publicly had to humiliate him, ruin his reputation, and also tie him to President Trump and President Trump's judgments. That was a larger game that they were playing. Now when it comes to Fairfax, even if they call for his resignation, notice they're not putting that front and center. They're not attaching their names to it in the same way, and they're not linking this to other Democrats, to a larger issue of the party itself.
This is linked to 2020, all these 2020 Democratic hopefuls who are jumping in with or without the facts. We're going to touch a little later this hour on Elizabeth Warren, who is officially launching her presidential effort.
Oh, she did?
Later today. Remember, she already sort of softly put it out there with the beer summit or beer deal. She's going to be announcing in a sanctuary city, though. She's going to be announcing in a sanctuary city in Massachusetts. That's interesting because the border battle continues as well. At the end of this week, funding for the federal government, at least parts of it, runs out yet again. So the clock ticking on whether or not there's going to be a deal to get more border security money.
That's right. And so new numbers are coming out now as this battle moves on, show that problems at the border, they're only getting worse. In fact, October 2018, so since October to this year, over 200,000 apprehensions have occurred at the border. That is up 85%
And you've
from
been hearing
last
Democrats
year.
say, oh, apprehensions are down, it's quieter. It's a manufactured crisis.
We've done interviews with Democrats and others saying, this is not a problem, this is going away. The apprehensions are going up. People are racing for the border while it's still open.
Right.
The emergency is more ripe than ever.
My favorite is when you run footage of them saying it's a manufactured crisis side by side with the footage of the people actually flooding the border and causing issues, and the Border Patrol agents advocating for greater measures.
Or side by side with Chuck Schumer a few years ago saying
the exact
there was
same
a
thing
crisis.
as Trump is saying right now. It's interesting, though, because Mike Pence, I think, has emerged as a key figure in this. And he recently said we will not rest until the border is secure with personnel and barriers. Listen.
We're going to continue to work to secure our border, north, south, east, and west. When it comes to our southern border, as the negotiations continue, we will not rest, we will not relent until our Customs and Border Protection have the technology, the personnel, and the barriers required to secure our border. We're going to build that wall one way or another.
So you see,
I promise you.
You see the White House not backing down an inch. You've heard the same message.
Yes.
It's consistent with what the president has said repeatedly. There's a report in Politico suggesting that as early as this weekend, there could be a preliminary deal in terms of new border security funding. Technically, the Democrats would probably not call it a wall. They'll call it a barrier.
Some other word.
We're hearing lots of stuff about what might be in the sausage making right now. And I think in light of stats like this, the position the president has held, there's no choice but to say, I will get my border wall, fencing, barrier, whatever you want to call it. That's the throwdown, right?
Don't you think it's important, though, to have Mike Pence out there? Because I think there are some people that view him a little bit differently. I really do. There are people who just hate Donald Trump for whatever reason, and everything he says as a result they're able to criticize in a certain way. I think the media handles Pence a little bit differently. It's a good 1-2 combo, right? Come in, you need your support. All right, guys, well, we're going to turn now to some headlines for you. President Trump sharing high hopes ahead of his second summit with North Korea. The president tweeting, quote, North Korea, under the leadership of Kim Jong-un, will become a great economic powerhouse. He may surprise some, but he won't surprise me because I have gotten to know him and fully understand how capable he is. North Korea will become a different kind of rocket, an economic one.
Different kind of rocket.
Different kind of rocket. The president will meet with Kim Jong-un in Hanoi, Vietnam later this month. An Idaho nurse pleads guilty to moving a missing Colorado's mom's cell phone to throw off police. Crystal Lee Kenny agreeing to testify against Kelsey Barrett's fiancé. Patrick Frazee is accused in the murder, and it's unclear how the two met. Barrett was last seen Thanksgiving morning. Her body has yet to be found. Turning now to some extreme weather, a monster winter storm wreaking havoc in the Northwest overnight. The governor in Washington declaring a state of emergency. Seattle is expected to get hit with the heaviest snowfall in 2 years. Some areas expecting up to 8 inches with wind gusts of 45 miles per hour. Hundreds of flights are canceled and delayed in Seattle and Portland.
Did I hear that? The governor declared a state of emergency.
State of emergency.
Oh, I think there's another emergency going on.
Someone might follow his lead.
Declare it.
All right. We'll let Pete, think about that a little
Carry
more.
on.
Meanwhile, fireworks erupting on Capitol Hill after Democrats become triggered by the president's acting attorney general.
You wouldn't oversee a witch hunt, would you?
You just have to answer a factual yes or no question.
I control this time, Mr. Whitaker. If you want to ask the chairman for time of your own, you can do it. This is my time.
Well, Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko was there. She joins us live next.
Plus, ISIS looking to boost their ranks. Who are they targeting? Millennials. We'll see. Will they get off their couch? Hopefully not.
That's my style. That's my style.
You wouldn't oversee a witch hunt, would you? You'd stop a witch hunt, wouldn't you?
You can spin the Constitution all you want. As you sit here today, you just have to answer a factual yes or no question.
I control this time, Mr. Whitaker. If you want to ask the chairman for time of your own, you can do it. This is my time.
Who are you? Where did you come from? And how the heck did you become the head of the Department of Justice?
Oh, that's not condescending at all. House Democrats seemingly on their own witch hunt, sparring with the acting attorney general about his supervision of the Mueller probe. Our next guest was at the hearing and is blasting Dems for putting on a political show. Here to explain, Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko of the House Judiciary Committee. Congresswoman, thank you for being here. I will note you don't even have 5 minutes, only 3, but we'll do the best we can. You were there. What unfolded?
Well, it was a total disgrace. I mean, the American people want us to work on big issues in a bipartisan manner, and this was just a theatrical show character assassination, just another way to undermine President Trump. It was really disgusting. I was quite sad, to tell you the truth, because if the American public was watching, they would just see these Democrats trying to harass this witness and ask all kinds of crazy questions, cut him off all the time, just quite frankly being very rude. I'm the co-chairwoman of the Bipartisan Women's Caucus, and so I'm really trying to get something done that we can work on with both Republicans and Democrats, but this type of theatrics does nothing to help that cause.
Representative, I wish you luck in that cause, but it feels like a pretty tough one these days, because I'm hearing like that feels like a preview of what Democrats want to do. They won the House. Now it's time to investigate under every rock. Do you expect anything to change in the House between now and 2020?
You know, they're overreaching, and I think that's going to be good for Republicans in 2020 because they're going so far to the left, so radical, so rude, that I think the American public is going to wake up. I think it's going to backlash on them.
But they say to Matt Whitaker, who are you? How did you even land here? This is a guy who has time as an attorney of the Southern District of Iowa. Because it's not the Southern District of Manhattan and Iowa, he's now unqualified. It was very condescending, I mean, the view they took of him.
It was very condescending, and they came into this saying, we're just going to do an oversight hearing. Well, that was a bunch of baloney. All they wanted to do was get him there and harass him and intimidate him and try to get him to say something against President Trump. It was a total show, total theatrics. You know, unfortunately, that's what the Democrats are doing now. They have this election bill coming up, which is taxpayer funding of candidates. It's atrocious. It's awful. They have gun control coming up. They are going so overboard, radical socialism that, you know, I think it's going to backfire on them.
Yeah, Representative, I say keep doing these hearings and we'll keep showing them and they'll keep exposing themselves. Representative Lesko, thank you for your time. Your 3 minutes are up. No more speaking or I will cut off your microphone. All right? Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. All right. The man accused of killing a pregnant woman now facing one less charge. And it's all thanks to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's new abortion law. We'll explain. And Virginia's governor and attorney general now both facing backlash for admitting for wearing blackface. But what would the reaction be if they were Republicans? David Webb here to weigh in on the left's hypocrisy. Coming up next. There he is.
Good morning again. Some quick headlines. Iran's supreme leader is defending the nation's Death to America chants. Can you believe it? They're standard at anti-U.S. rallies. He claims the cries are directed at American leaders, President Trump, John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo, but not somehow to the American people. This just days after the president singled them out at his State of the Union. And ISIS is expanding its terror group by recruiting well-educated millennials. A new study says ISIS targets young, educated people from Saudi Arabia who aren't well-versed in religious knowledge. Researchers also finding Saudis typically join ISIS to fight Iranian-backed Shiite groups, not for their hatred of the Western world.
Oh, okay. As long as their intentions are clear.
All right. Meanwhile, as Virginia's lieutenant governor faces a second allegation of sexual assault, the state's governor and attorney general are still both facing backlash for admitting, of course, to wearing blackface.
But what would the reaction be if these were Republican scandals?
That is the question. Here to weigh in, the host of Reality Check with David Webb on Fox Nation, radio talk show host and Fox News contributor David Webb. That is the question.
Thanks for being here.
If these two gentlemen were Republicans instead of Democrats, what would be happening right now?
Well, you said it, I think it was you or whoever said it earlier, they'd be camped out on the front of their lawns, there'd be media trucks everywhere. The Democrats set an impossible standard, but then that's the hypocrisy here. Whether it's sexual assault allegations or blackface is automatically assumed to be racism. They have set the standard, and now they're caught in their own standard. But the Democrats, almost Machiavellian way that I admire them, they're going to stick by and ignore the calls against their hypocrisy. They don't believe in due process when it comes to the allegations of sexual assault. They won't have an honest conversation about blackface from the early 1900s, the minstrel shows, the different uses in media, in movies. You look at Silver Streak, right? You look at all these movies that are, look at Robert Downey playing a black man, Tropic Thunder. Look at white chicks You know, look at all these movies which have portrayed different things with people playing the other ethnicity. Look at Michael Jackson in various disguises. They had nothing to say. But politically, let them die by the standard. And I'm going to say this. I know some people find this controversial. I don't care. Michael Ertel resigned in Florida after going to a Halloween party. Yes, it's outrageous what he did with the dress and the
He's a Republican state
and a
official.
Republican Florida Secretary of State. And if Northam gets to keep his job, then Governor DeSantis, call Michael Ertel and offer him his job back.
David, can I ask you about, when it comes to blackface and how people should be held accountable, for you, is there nuance in this? Is there a difference between, for example, the yearbook photo that you saw with Northam, which many people found outrageous? You see someone in a KKK outfit, very clear blackface. Is there a difference between that and someone saying, listen, I went to a Halloween party, or once I dressed up as Michael Jackson? Should there be different consequences? How do we handle this issue in 2018?
There needs to be honesty. Frankly, and the honesty.
2019. It's 2019.
That's all right. I still do that. There needs to be honesty in this. Look, in the 80s, in the 90s, and I was there for the Halloween parties, people dressed up in outrageous costumes. Didn't make them automatically racist. By the way, I'm not calling Northam a racist because he did this. Because he didn't march with the KKK. He doesn't come out and said, I believe whites are superior to blacks. You know, the definition of racism is to believe that one group is superior to another.
Yeah.
Outrageous and offensive does not automatically rise to racism. It's dishonest to automatically assign that. That's the problem with this standard. So if someone goes to a Halloween party, okay, outrageous, offensive, fine. If they commit an action that is racist, then I will call them a racist. And that doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat, male or female.
All right, David Webb, thank you for weighing in today. By the way,
that's a reality check right there.
If you got a check from Jedediah recently, it's no good. It's got 2018
2018.
written on it.
I tricked everyone.
I think we're good for 90 days. I'm going to cash that.
I tricked a lot of people, David.
All right, see you all.
Thanks.
All right, it's a community that was the site of a massive fentanyl bust, and is known as a pathway for illegal drugs to the rest of the Northeast in our country. So why will Elizabeth Warren why is she celebrating in Lawrence, Massachusetts today? The big fail coming up.
Epic fail.
Wow. And from beef jerky bouquets, that's for you, Pete, to sweetheart succulents, we have all the gifts guaranteed to be a hit with your Valentine, and they are coming up next.
Whoa, champagne.
Woo, it looks good.
Oh.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for Friday Follies. Well, a Canadian man is denied putting his name on a license plate. Delta and Coke are walking back what some are calling a creepy marketing campaign. Joining us now with all the details, blanketing us with wisdom. That's a hint. Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, and, of course, New York Times bestselling author of the upcoming book, Will Wilder, The Amulet of Power. My kids just got their copy, Raymond. All right, Raymond. Let's start with this controversy over a napkin and what Delta thought was a good idea with Coke.
Now, Laura, the napkin came, as they often do, with the complimentary beverage, okay? But it read in very small print, be a little old school. Write down your number and give it to your plane crush. You never know. Now, there was a space to write your phone number. Some were outraged by this. People tweeted they thought it was creepy. One woman said she felt stigmatized and pressured. Please. Eventually, Delta and Coke apologized. Now, does this offend you at all?
Not at all.
I don't mind this, but people were
First
upset.
Of all, what's the big deal? As it is, you are close to other people on a plane anyway, so you might as well, if there's someone interesting.
Some of the people tweeting said it made them feel uncomfortable because you're encouraging ogling, but my feeling is...
Well, here's an idea. If you don't want someone to ogle, or I always say oogle. Is it ogle?
Oogle.
Why do I say oogle? Ogle you. Then don't come in with short shorts with your entire pubic area showing for the whole plane to see, hanging out of your clothes. And maybe we won't be,
ogling you.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I would have liked this to be a conversation starter, like name your favorite book, and then you leave a place for the person to put their favorite book or favorite TV show. Conversation is good, and a little romance in the air. I don't mind that, but you better, well, not for me, anyway. The only romance I'm having is if my wife is in the aisles.
I've met some interesting people on a...
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to talk about?
Not right now, but yes.
Strangers on a plane?
Yes.
Okay. Better to get a date than to keep you warm than those airplane blankets. It turns out, according to Travel and Leisure, did you love that transition?
Yeah, great.
They only provide clean blankets blankets on originating flights. All the other blankets are just refolded. They don't, and by the way, don't let the cellophane baggie fool
total
you. You know, because you think, oh, this is clean. No, a flight attendant blogger, Sarah Cagle, says they just repackage them with everybody's germs. Now, Laura, I have to share this with you. There was a tweet that emerged. A comedian, Nicole Byer, went on a Delta flight. When she unfurled her blanket, she claimed she found this goodie in it: human feces. I don't even know what to say.
That must be diapering the baby. And
they do sometimes diaper them on the pull-down tray.
She didn't have a wipe. She ran out of wipes. Isn't that lovely? And let me just tell you, never put your hand in the seat back compartment. I put my hand in there once, went right into a dirty diaper. That thing is nasty. Nasty. Well, Raymond and I we travel with the staff a lot, and we bring
Lysol wipes.
People are looking at us like,
wipes.
oh, could you wipe my seat too? I'm happy to do so.
What do I look like, Hazel?
I am. Talking about dated references. But I will, but I don't work on the. But I often do help other people clean their seats.
Wall Street Journal claims blankets are only cleaned
filthy
every 5 to 30 days. Oh my gosh.
So
the
drool.
Avoid the blankets.
No, don't touch.
Just don't touch any. Wear your hazmat.
No, come in with hazmat. All right, that's a lovely transition to the next story. Dave Osman of Saskatchewan,
Watch how
that's
you say
in Canada, attempted to put his name on a license plate. Well, what happened?
Well, the Osmans, that's the way you pronounce it, Osman, some crude people might say Assman, have quite a storied history. Dave's distant relative, Dick, appeared on the David Letterman show in 1995. Dick Osman, and he's something of a local celebrity. Watch.
We were kind of taken by the man's name, Dick Assman. I don't know that I've ever met a guy named Assman. We thought tonight, if we have a second, we'll just call and spend a minute or two here on the show getting to know Dick Assman.
Hello.
Hello, who is this?
Dick Assman.
Oh, Dick.
Okay, first of all, I missed that, David Letterman.
You're right.
That's before he was all caught up in politics.
This sparked something called Osmania. Now his relative, Dave Osman, can't get local authorities to allow him to put his family name on his license. They claim, and I quote, the committee must abide by a set of guidelines, regardless of if the word in someone's name is pronounced differently than the offensive version. So because ASSMAN appears offensive to people, they will not put it on the license. I am deeply offended for Mr. Osman, because, I mean, what if your name is Boob Man? What if your name is Lipschitz? You can't have the license with your name on it?
Apparently, but you know what I'm offended by? I'm offended by people who do vanity plates at all.
Well, do you remember this? Seinfeld, they had a similar episode about this. In fact, with the same Assman reference. What?
Assman? No, these don't belong to me. I'm not the ass man. I think there's been a mistake.
What's your name again?
Cosmo Kramer.
Cosmo Kramer. You are the ass man.
No, I'm not the ass man.
Well, as far as the state of New York is concerned, you are.
Well, apparently in Saskatchewan, a real ass man cannot put his name out there. I say, be a proud ass man. Put your name on your license. He should take it to the high court.
Mediaite. After a batch of, thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Laura.
Friday Follies, my God, what's happened to us? After a batch of stolen texts revealed the sultry affair he was having, Amazon and Washington Post CEO Jeff Bezos is leveling a charge of extortion against the National Enquirer. So why is Peter Schweizer calling him a hypocrite? That's next. A Florida affair caught on text and charges of extortion. That's the state of play between one of the wealthiest men on the planet and the most famous tabloid in American history. Trace Gallagher has the story tonight from our West Coast newsroom that's buzzing. Trace.
Hi, Laura. Yeah, when the world's richest man says he was blackmailed by the world's most famous tabloid, it tends to generate a little buzz, and now you have the feds involved. First, Bezos went on a blogging platform called Medium and posted details of the alleged extortion, including messages sent to him from the National Enquirer, its parent company American Media, and American Media CEO David Pecker, threatening to release intimate photos of Bezos and his girlfriend Lauren Sanchez unless Bezos agreed to, one, call off his investigation of how the Inquirer got the private pictures and texts, and 2, issued a statement saying the investigation that uncovered his affair with Sanchez was not politically motivated. Well, Bezos, of course, refused, writing, quote, "Of course I don't want personal photos published, but I also won't participate in their well-known practice of blackmail, political favors, political attacks, and corruption. I prefer to stand up, roll this log over, and see what crawls out." American media has now responded, saying it wasn't blackmailing Bezos and that the messages were good faith negotiations to resolve the matter, saying, quote,